So today's topic is about talent, which if you're going to be in an artistic or creative career, it's something that's going to factor in a lot. You're going to meet people who are incredibly talented out there, and it's going to make you reconsider your career. Now, the hope is that, you're one of these people that's incredibly talented, that you're in the top 5, 10% of people who do what you do, in which case, that's great. You are where you belong. There's a few different factors, I think, defining whether you can do whatever creative career you like. Now, if you've seen the other videos of this channel, you know that we mostly focus on the video game industry, but also a bit on the music industry just because I spent time there before I got into video games. So this will mostly focus on music industry, but it's applicable in almost all creative fields. Now, prior to going to music school, I went to Berkeley, so you've probably heard that if you watch other videos, but that might put some perspective into what I'm talking about in terms of creative careers and meeting talented people. So I went to Berkeley College of Music. I went there, I studied there for a couple of years. I graduated and everything right after I finished engineering. So, I did a safe degree first and then my artsy one after. I was very lucky in that regard. And prior to going there, in the two schools I was in, like before, I was sort of the best musician in both those schools. Like I wrote a concerto when I was 15, so that got a lot of praises. The school orchestra played it. I was in a few bands, and in all those bands, I was kind of the band leader. So like I kind of got everyone on their instruments, taught them how to play their bits. And when I was young, I did see myself, unfortunately, as I'm not going to say prodigy. I knew there were people better than me, but I did in the small world I lived in. It felt like I was definitely like in both those schools, maybe the best musician, and just that I was quite talented. And a lot of people told me, obviously they were being nice, but it felt like I was pretty good. Even my music teacher said, "Oh yeah, you're picking up pieces quickly." But he did honestly tell me that that there definitely were prodigies who were way better than me. But that I didn't mind that because in the music industry, it's not necessarily the prodigies who always do the best. Like, rock stars are rarely prodigies. Normally the people who just came up with something really catchy. They were in the right place in the right time. And let's be honest, they're quite good looking and it all just rolled in together for them. And that's a little bit what this video is about, which is, talent and the consideration of what talent is and being able to recognize it. Like, the dream is that you have it yourself. But I think it's healthy to also have perspective on other people's talents and see how that could affect your career. Because the truth is that the world's changing. Not everything is unlimited. I think those of us who grew up in the heyday of the 90s, it can feel like, we were kind of told we could be anything we wanted to be. And it was fantastic. It was great. But then I think there was soon a realization that that's not necessarily true. So, and I think music industry and video game industry and almost all creative industries, I think there is a very strong realization now that there is limitation. There's only so many musicians that are needed. People only buy so many video games in a year. And so you have to realize that what you're making, like there is that nice situation where even if it's not necessarily the best, it just resonates with people and then you get a hit, which is great. Sometimes some great products just don't succeed just because they don't resonate with the crowd. And that's just luck. But the focus here is talent. So when I went to Berkeley, I soon realized by the first semester that I was in probably about the bottom third of musicians. And that's just me being generous. Maybe even the bottom quarter. There were just some incredibly talented people there. And even that's kind of a finite world because Berkeley's not cheap. So like basically either you were there on scholarship because you were that talented, or you were there because you or your parents paid for it. In which case these type of people have good connections. So the competition in Berkeley was intense. And to think outside Berkeley, there's a lot of fantastic musicians as well. So that was the first realization. And then I think the other thing that kind of dawned on me was that like what I thought I'd learn in music school was I thought I'd learn how to come up with a really good melody and harmony. Like I was pretty good. I could write up. Well, maybe we'll wait for that. So think about where I live now. It's a lot of airplanes. Okay, so there was I always wish that I could write better, like, well, particularly harmonies, like knowing when to put in like an inharmonic chord. So basically a chord that doesn't belong in the key, but then just makes things spicier, or it makes the transition between one like verse to a chorus really nice, things like that. And you do sort of learn that in music school, but it's a lot of instinct, it's a lot of talent, and that's where I could feel the difference. Like I worked really hard at Berkeley because, like I knew that it was expensive to be there. I knew that it was a tough industry. Even upon arriving, we were warned. We were told that really only a minority of us would actually have careers in music. And to a certain extent, I even consider myself lucky because I write the music in my games. So I get to do a lot more music than probably most of my colleagues that graduated from Berkeley. But anyway, back to it. I met some really insanely talented people, people who could come up with these melodies and harmonies that just sounded fantastic. Like my stuff was good, it was good enough for commercials, but like, stuff that could actually be pop songs, I soon realized I wasn't there. And I think if you want a career in any of these things, you need a bit of self perspective. Like, it's great to think that you're great, and sometimes having that ego can help you power through. And there are songs that aren't all genius songs that do really well. This is less true about video games. So, if we're going to talk about talent in video games, because in another video I talked about how there's a lot of science behind video games. If you don't have the science of it, if it doesn't feel good, it's not so good. But with songs, there's a little bit more luck involved. The talent is incredible, incredibly relevant. Is what I mean. And I think it's really healthy to take some perspective as to who you're competing with, who's there in the industry, and where you fit in. So fortunately for me, I sort of realized quickly, and so I kind of hit commercials hard, and I had a brief few years where that was my career, and it was great. Like I enjoyed it for the time it was. Like I've mentioned in other videos, I didn't really enjoy the lack of control, which is why I went to video games, where it's all about control. You actually control nearly everything. But yeah, just bear that into mind. If like you're going to go into any of these careers, like really try to look at yourself and see, like, do you have the talent, which I mentioned in another video. But it's really important to just compare yourself to others in that sense. Like, yes, you are theoretically competing with yourself, but that can be a bit idealistic at times. I mean, that's great when you're young and you're still honing your craft. I think you can somewhat think like that up until you graduate university. But then after that, you do need to consider the competition. I think there's a certain level of pragmatism that has to be taken into it. And yeah, you have to pay the bills. And if you are in an industry where others are far more talented, then it might be consideration to pivot. Hopefully this one didn't ramble too much. Like, it made a lot more sense in my head, but I hope, you got some good points out of this. Take care.